Happy Sunday and War Eagle to the War Report family. Your guy Ike Jones, and we are here at the Weekend Tailgate today talking about spring practice, specifically who has the most to prove this spring from the quarterback position. Also, we'll get a little bit more into Auburn's win versus Georgia in Athens. Let's get straight to it, man. This is your Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate. Brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. C-Dub. Ike Jones. Be Will. Mike G. You are now listening to
The Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. Ike Jones, B. Will in here. Mike G is covering women's basketball today as they take on Texas A&M in Neville Arena. And Caesar has the day off, so you just got a two-man show, you know what I'm saying? But we going to be in here representing for the crew.
We in here.
As always, the Weekend Tailgate is brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. Make sure you head over to goldenscastiron.com/WR. That link should be in the description of the video. If you want to, work out, you can get your weight up. Use code Get Your Weight Up, 15% off of kettlebells and dumbbells. If you want to grill out, you can use code TWR to get you $65 off of a fire pit. Off a Kamado grill. And if you want to chill out, you can get yourself a little fire pit the way we have in our our fireside chats that look infinitely better than anything Ole Miss is trying to do with a fireside chat. You know what I mean? I don't care if Coach Beard's been doing it forever. It still look bootleg. But get your grill, get your fire pit game up, Ole Miss, is all I'm trying to say. Maybe you could holler at Golden's. You can use our code too. I don't care if you get a little discount off. Chris, tell Ole Miss, chip in a little money, and you got a code to get you $65 off, and maybe you can get your grill and your fire pit game looking right. You know what I mean? Anyway, those of you who are in here, y'all make sure y'all doing the necessary and sharing the content out there on social media so everybody can get in on the conversation. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of those things. If you aren't a member, become a member. Go and click that join button and get you part of Green Name Gang. Lots of film to break down. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that, and somebody will get a little something for free. That means a free month of membership out here. And we're going to give away another mug today. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the live chat, and we'll do that drawing here later on. Got to be present to win. Enough of the preliminaries. Let's get into the conversation. First and foremost, my man, B. Will, we're going to start it off by saying, hold on. Shout out to the Auburn baseball team out here doing their thing out on the baseball diamond.
That's right.
You know what
Skunking
I mean?
people.
Yeah, they put them things. And today's gonna be a tougher task, though. Undefeated versus undefeated today. The Virginia squad that they're playing today, undefeated. So we'll see what's up with that one. But doing their thing like what Auburn baseball has been doing so far. Shout out to Coach Butch Thompson for annually having Auburn baseball in the conversation amongst the best teams in the country.
Yeah, it does.
Shout out to Auburn gymnastics, out here getting dubs and things, still doing their thing. Loving what I'm seeing from the gymnastics team. Softball, not undefeated, but still looking okay. Mickey Dean always getting a lot of scrutiny, but hey, the teams can pitch. They just need to get some more offense going for the softball team. But swim and dive is doing all right. Track's been doing okay, Everything school thing is real out here.
It's real
in these Auburn streets.
We would like it to be more real on the first front. You know what I mean?
But we'll talk.
It's on the way.
We finna get into that.
I hope it's on the way. Yeah. I hope it's on the way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Speaking of that, Auburn football is beginning spring practice this week. They actually had their first unofficial practice, I believe, this past week on Friday, just to kind of get things going. But the first official practice is coming up Tuesday. And so Auburn's going to get things started off. Coach Freeze has a press conference, going to be addressing the media about the spring. We've already begun our spring camp previews on our channel. A couple other channels been doing that as well. Up Tempo, I think, has been doing some spring previews. College Loop's been doing some spring previews. But today we want to talk about the position everybody has an opinion about, and that is the quarterback for Auburn University. Right. I'm going to bring up just, the quarterback room. This doesn't include any of the walk-ons, so no disrespect to any of those guys. I don't believe that they're going to factor in heavily unless there's some sort of injury situation. But this is the quarterback room as it stands right now for Auburn going into the spring. You've got senior quarterback Peyton Thorne, sophomore Holden Gerner, redshirt sophomore at that, Hank Brown, the redshirt freshman, and then you've got the freshman incoming Walker White. Those are the four guys that are really going to be in competition. You can see their statistics, number of snaps. Of course, that's going. This is all just past season, right? Because, of course, Peyton Thorne has had way more snaps than this. Holden Gerner had a couple of snaps in his freshman season. And then, Hank Brown, these are all the snaps he's had as a collegiate athlete so far. Passing yards there, of course, heavily in favor of Peyton Thorne, who had the vast majority of the snaps with his 1754. Holden Gerner with 75 yards passing. Hank Brown, less snaps, more yards, 132 yards in that bowl game versus Maryland. Rushing yards, heavily in favor, again, of Peyton Thorne, 682. Holden Gerner has only been sacked in his collegiate career so far with -5. Hank Brown, sack-free, right? Yeah. No yardage for him at all. Touchdown to interception ratio, 16-10 ratio there for Peyton Thorne. Holden Gerner only thrown an interception so far. Hasn't had the opportunity to throw a touchdown. And Hank Brown hasn't thrown a touchdown or an interception yet. Completions, you see that there, again, heavily favoring the guy who has done most of the work. But then you look at the percentage, 60.9% there for Peyton Thorne, 33.3% for Holden Gerner, and 80% for Hank Brown. And then the PFF grades. Hank Brown leading in that, 83.3% to Peyton Thorne, 70.5%, Holden Gerner, 56.1%. Of course, out the door is Robbie Ashford, who transferred now at South Carolina. You can see his stat line right there. Won't get into that too much because he's not here, so that's kind of irrelevant. Just kind of showing you the picture of how we have arrived at the four young men that will be competing this spring for the starting quarterback position. So my question to you, B. Will, who has the most to prove out of this room this spring? Not who you think is going to win the competition, not who you think is the best guy, but who's got the most to prove this spring? You can give them in order. Like, I think this guy has the most and this guy has the least. Well, however you want to approach it. That's my question to you.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Peyton Thorne has the most to prove because he was handed the job early last year before the season started, and he was re-endorsed multiple times, although with what sounded like soft threats on his starting position from Hugh Freeze. But he has gotten a vote of confidence over and over and over again, and it ended with a terrible performance in the bowl game. We understand that Philip Montgomery's hands on the offense in combination with Hugh Freeze's hands on the offense of that tug of war may have played a part in the underperforming from Peyton Thorne. But there's still a very clear, what were you thinking that happened at several points? And granted, I know we can break down games where, hey, this game plan doesn't make sense. We were here on this channel, live reacting at halftime and post-game, like, why did they have him doing this? Why wasn't he doing that? But the fact remains that there were some tentpole moments in that season where it's like, hey, there's a guy. He's wide open. You're the quarterback and you're not being pressured. Get him the ball. And it was either overthrown, underthrown, picked off, whatever the case may be. That by itself gives him something to prove. Not an entire season's worth of poor game management with QBs going in and out. We're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about the moments you had where you could have put this ball in the right place for it to be caught, and you didn't. What was going on with that? Can you fix that? Was that just a product of the talent? We understand that there may have been some loafing going on at the wide receiver position at times with the personnel out there, And I even understand that there may have been some distrust between Peyton Thorne and some of the other guys out there that he was throwing to. With that being the case, if we, I guess what I'm saying, if we're going to grade you on a scale and say, hey, that guy wasn't going to be in the right spot for you, so I get why you don't throw there and you force it there. If I take all of that away, still, did you make the right read? And not even to the guys that you didn't trust. Did you make the right read to throw it to a guy that was, we saw him skip over Jarquez running free or in the flat several times to make a harder throw that was incomplete. Why didn't you take what you were given? We saw a corner blitz coming right here, a guy uncovered, naked on the line. No identification, just snap the ball, and then he's immediately under pressure and gets sacked. The quarterback things, he was not good at. If I take away the wide receiver inconsistencies, the quarterback things that he was not good at. As a 3-year starter now, across two of the best, the two best conferences in the nation in college football, how do you justify that? How do you reconcile that with what you were told from Hugh Freeze coming in? I think he has the most to prove for his reputation. If he has any aspirations past college, I have no idea. Based on what he's put out there so far, I wouldn't imagine that that's realistic for him, unless it's the the minor league football thing that just came together between the other two minor league. Yeah, the UFL. So maybe, I mean, some people really just love football and they really want to play it, even if they're not going to be NFL great at it. What's his name? AJ McCarron just jumped off of an NFL roster on the bench to go be a starter in the UFL. Hey man, you love football. Go do it. Go enjoy yourself. But if he has any realistic expectations for himself after college, he has to prove that you're at least good at the quarterback things. Physically, you might not be the fastest guy. You might not be able to take a hit and knock a guy down and run. You might not be able to sling it on a rope 40 yards down the field in the air. But what you can do is recognize the blitz, make the right read, throw your check down, throw your check down accurately, and hit wide open guys. Those are things that you did not need the wide receivers to be all-stars to be able to do, and you did not do it. He has to prove that he can do the quarterback things and just bring his level of play up by that much. Like, that would make the battle interesting if he at least shortened up how much slack was in his game from last year.
Okay. Listen, all of those things I think are true about the quarterback position, and I agree with you that he has a lot to prove. For me, the guy that has the most to prove is Holden Geriner, because here's why I say he has the most to prove. He's got the most eligibility. Well, not the most eligibility. He's got more eligibility than Peyton Thorne. I'm using this comparatively to Peyton Thorne. And for Holden, he hasn't had the opportunity to show. I won't say he hasn't shown. He hasn't had the opportunity to show that he can be a collegiate quarterback at all. And it's going to be difficult for any Power 5 team or any quality Group of 5 program to look at Holden Geriner and say, I can see him coming into my program and being QB1. And if he has any aspirations, you're talking about Peyton Thorne's professional aspirations. I'm talking about Holden Geriner's collegiate aspirations. If he has any aspirations of being a college quarterback, he needs to show something this spring to somebody, whether that's in this coaching staff or on film to somebody else's coaching staff. He needs to show something that proves, hey, man, this kid's got it. Now, we've heard about his arm, and, oh, man, he's got the best arm talent, and I've seen it. Holden Geriner's got an amazing arm. He hasn't proven that anyone, like, forget about what the staff is, forget about receivers, he hasn't proven to anyone yet that in college, Holden Geriner can be a collegiate quarterback. And he can forget about professional aspirations until he conquers that one right there, which is college quarterback. Can you be that guy? And I think it's a hard sell. Like, I don't know how you sell to somebody. You can do that. You can go back and look at his high school tape and say, all right, well, maybe, you know, based upon this and some glowing letters of recommendation, right? Listen, man, we're out here in the job market, right? Trying to figure out what to do with professional careers, right? It's very hard to be able to convince someone after a certain point that you can do something they've never seen you do, unless you've got really good recommendations from somebody that says, oh, well, you know, you never done it, but he could do that thing.
Right.
It's gonna be difficult, is all I'm saying, for Holden Geriner to be, and he's running out of time. Like, I think Peyton Thorne, forgive my word choice here. I don't mean that forgive my word choice here, but I'm going to use the word. I think Peyton Thorne could fleece somebody else into a starting position somewhere based upon tape that he's got out there and the thought process that he could revisit his good year at Michigan State and his good moments in year 2 Michigan State and good moments in Auburn about, oh, well, it's the environment, it's this, it's that. He could fleece somebody else into that and potentially leave after the spring if he wanted to and get somebody else to give him a job. Probably wouldn't be another Power 5 school, but he could go get a G5. He could do that. As a starting quarterback right now, I think that there's no problem with that. And if he does, you know, do that in the G5 level, I'm saying if he doesn't win here, the job at Auburn, then he could go to the G5 level and light it up, and somebody would take a chance on him because they'll say, hey, between this final season of him lighting it up at this level and this year that he had at Michigan State, we'll give him a shot in the NFL, right? He could do all of those things. Holden Geriner, he doesn't have a shot to do anything unless somebody sees some game film. And so far, the game film that he's put out there hadn't looked all that good.
Yeah.
So I think he has the most to prove this season, this spring. Now, here's the other question that I want to ask, and your answer will probably be the same to this one, but I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
Who has the most to lose this spring?
See, okay, so that's tough. That's a tough question. The reason that's a tough question to me is because Hank Brown doesn't have anything to lose because he has nothing. He has no guarantee of play. Yeah. He's got 3
Hank
drives
Brown
in
is
the bowl
he's the
game.
guy who has no pressure, in my opinion, in this
Right.
scenario.
Right.
He can come out here and be free, loose. You know, he has nothing to lose in this spring. Yeah.
Holden, I agree with how you're viewing Holden because his college career, he's done nothing in his college career. And to be fair with you, he hasn't had the opportunity to do anything either. And if I'm not calling the very limited reps he got in game, because how they used him last year was like, one day. That trick play, what game was that? That trick play, they brought him in just to throw.
Yeah.
Because that's how he's been used, I understand why he hasn't had the opportunity for success. I know that you could say, well, Hank Brown lit it up in a couple of drives in the bowl game, and Holden didn't. I think there's a lot more that goes into that. I think it speaks positively of Hank Brown that he was able to do that in those circumstances, but I don't think it necessarily speaks poorly of Holden that he wasn't able to look as crisp and as spry as Hank, because I think he's been disempowered. What's the opposite of empowered? Whatever the opposite of empowered in, because I'm not using the right prefix on it.
I think disempowered might actually be correct, but yeah.
Okay. That's what
We'll
I think.
roll with it. For the day, it's disempowered. You know what I'm saying?
Cool. So I'm really trying to figure out, does he have the most to lose? Because if he would have to, I think, get a fair
Lawrence
shot
Robinson
at the job.
says constrained is a good word to lose as a opposite.
It's a
of
good
empowered.
it's a good description of the situation for him. I don't know if it's the opposite of empowered, but I'm with you, Lawrence. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking at with Holden is, did you have an opportunity?
He was Space Jam monstered.
Okay. All right. It took me a second to process what you was trying to do. Okay.
Oh man.
Has he had the opportunity? That's always going to be my question when we are going to grade guys according to what they've done on the field. Were the circumstances ideal? Did you get an opportunity to come in and play as the person who prepped to play for the entire week, all those practices in camp. Peyton Thorne, we've seen what he could do when he not only had the nod as a starter, fall camp he was named a starter, you're repping with ones. They start moving guys in and out of the lineup according to how well they're playing for you. So you got that going for you. They're going to draw plays up according to what you do well because they want you to succeed. They've named you the starter. Has anybody else in this quarterback room received that type of treatment? And then the countless, not only the reps during the weeks of practice, game reps, which is the first form of development and improvement, is actually playing the game. Holden didn't get that. Hank didn't get that. Walker White hasn't gotten that. Robbie didn't get that last year. What did they actually do to make sure that you could succeed in this position? For Holden, Hank, and of course Walker White having just gotten here, nothing. They did not equip you to succeed. They did not plan for you specifically. So it's hard for me to say that Holden has the most to lose because, to your point, it would be hard for him to go somewhere else and say, hey, I can do this stuff because it's not on tape. But somebody else at another school could be like, I haven't seen you even really get a fair shot to try to succeed. So let me do with what I know you can do, your raw skill set, your raw tools. What can you do? Can I build off of that? Now, it's still a gamble because you don't know how a guy's going to be when he gets out on the field, even with all that preparation. I was among those who thought Peyton Thorne may look rough early, but Hugh Freeze named him because he sees these things that he knows he can work with, and by the end of the season, will be humming. Mm-hmm. I was wrong. Because I was
wrong with you.
Because you don't know. You don't know until you get a guy in that situation. Were those circumstances ideal by the end of the season? No, there was no Keon Coleman for you to throw to like there was in Michigan State. I'm sorry, man. But you know what there was? A run game that worked consistently, a line that run blocked very well, who gave you opportunities to make throws. And when those opportunities were there, you still missed them. Not the guy. Has Holden failed under those conditions yet? He has not failed. And that's why I'm back and forth between Peyton and Holden, right? Because to your point, Holden's college career from here forward will be in the balance based on what happens in spring camp, probably mostly in spring camp. But what would you lose if you didn't win that job, if you're Holden? What do you lose? You lose an opportunity to start at Auburn.
Right.
And you lose spring camp somewhere else because now you're going to go and you're going to try to be the guy somewhere else, and you're going to be in the back of the line again, more than likely, unless you go somewhere, like you said, you go to a regional place that has the opportunity. They're looking for a quarterback, a Georgia State, or, places that are in flux too that need a quarterback. But I don't know if he has the most to lose, because I think being number 2 at Auburn for him, where he still wouldn't be prepared as the starter necessarily, I don't know if that's a better situation than actually being number 1 on the G5 roster. I think Holden probably has the least to lose because he has not failed. He has the least to lose. Because if it doesn't work here, you start up somewhere else. What are you leaving behind at Auburn? Some good memories. I've made some friends, but my playing legacy here is basically nothing. I didn't get the opportunity year 1. I didn't get the opportunity year 2. And year 3, you're telling me I'm not going to be. Hopefully this is a fair competition. Let me add that addendum. Under the assumption that it is a fair, wide open competition, if he loses this competition here to a guy who looked as poor and mediocre, back and forth between poor and mediocre as Peyton Thorne did last year, then I think that's the first knock on Holden Geriner. You were here in the house, in the system, full year. You saw what happened in front of you. You could not play that guy. Now that starts to look like you might not be that guy. But I'm got to go with Thorne for this reason. I got to go with Thorne. You have the most to lose. If you couldn't beat out a redshirt sophomore with virtually no playing time, a redshirt freshman with absolutely no playing time, or a true freshman with 0 playing time, your playing career is over. You are done. I think that ends his college football and pro football career if Peyton Thorne goes out here and doesn't outplay those guys. If he's not the starter and clearly heads and tails above those guys, his college career is over.
I agree as far as most to lose is Peyton Thorne. Yeah. Because he's the only one that actually has something to lose, in my opinion. Yeah. Now, again, I think that The other guys have a little bit more to prove. Well, and I said specifically, Holden Geriner has more to prove, but they haven't actually gained anything in their collegiate career yet, except for expectations and hype. And you don't really lose expectations and hype by not playing. Like, you keep all of that, right? Like, if we're talking about energy, you keep all of your potential energy as long as you don't get in motion and it turns into some sort of kinetic thing. Peyton Thorne has used a lot of his kinetic energy so far, my guy.
Yeah.
And
we've seen it.
If he doesn't do something this spring to separate himself, and I think it needs to be a clear separation, you are the guy. If you go into the fall and it's still in question about whether or not you are, because I think that this competition will go into the fall, if for nothing but appearances sake. But if you go into the fall and it's not, without a doubt, Peyton Thorne can be the QB1 for this team, like, there's no doubt. And it's not, I don't know if he can be quarterback one. It should be going into the fall. Peyton Thorne has looked really good, but so has such and such. So it's a question about who separates themselves during the fall. If you're not at least in the conversation of, yeah, it definitely can work with this guy, and they even think about sniffing a portal because they're worried about whether or not Peyton Thorne can be a solution, hang it up, man. Just take your chips off the table. It's been good. You've had fun.
Yeah.
You know,
got a nice truck.
We're not gonna let it run. We're not gonna let the roulette wheel spin around no more. I'm good. Let me just take my chips, and then you go and you Texas State it like TJ Finley, or you something. But, like, just don't go out here and embarrass yourself this fall.
Yeah.
Come out here and be and for me, I think it's gonna be so much more about what his leadership ability is going to be, because I think that's the thing that a lot of people question about Peyton Thorne at times is, can he lead a team? Because I don't think he was the leader of that Michigan State squad when they were doing well that year. Kenneth Walker was the leader of that offense that year. Peyton Thorne was the quarterback. I don't know if he was the leader.
Right.
In the year in which he was supposed to be the guy, he didn't lead him to anything.
Yeah, they were not.
This year, or this past season, Auburn needed a leader at quarterback. Peyton Thorne couldn't lead that group.
Yeah.
He's got to figure out how to lead out here.
Well,
and he's going to be here all spring. And there's no, well, he just got here this fall or this summer, and he didn't really have the time. He's had a full season to have camaraderie with the guys that remain. He's got the full off season to try to build something with the guys who came in for this spring, and he's going to have the full spring to be working through this new playbook with them. There is no reason why he should not submit himself as a leader for this locker room coming into the fall.
I've asked this question multiple times. We think the quarterback needs to be the leader, but I think we need the best players to be the leaders. If Peyton
true.
Thorne is not the best player, and honestly, if the players on the offense don't think he's the best option for quarterback, which honestly, judging by how they played when he was not in the game after he got benched in the bowl game, to me, that told my eyes they don't really believe in this dude. How can that person be the leader if the people around you don't even believe you're the best person for the job? And that's the challenge for him, because then the onus is squarely on the coach to go, hey, coach, you wanted it to be the case that he was the best option. You wanted it to be the case that he was the leader. He is not. You leave him out here at the detriment of the cohesion of the rest of your team. Why would you do that? Because a guy can try to be, I'm going to go and hey, guys, we're going to talk on the sideline and I'm going to rock. They always put that emphasis on when a quarterback goes to talk to the offensive line when something goes wrong. It's like how much the offensive line is engaged with that dude has a lot to do with, are you that dude or not? Like, if we believe in you, then we like, okay, yeah, don't worry about it. We got it. If they don't, they're going to be like, man. They don't want to hear it because you are messing us up. You are the reason we are not better. How could he be a better leader if he's not a better player?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I'll say this. I don't think you have to be. I agree with you. I think that your best players need to also be the leaders on your team. I agree 100%. Your quarterback needs to be one of your best players, though. And because the quarterback, now, he doesn't need to be the only leader. He doesn't necessarily have to be the most vocal leader. But he needs to have some leader because he's the guy that's going to have the ball in his hands the vast majority of the snaps. If you're not running Wildcat, if you're not doing some sort of crazy trick play, it's the quarterback that's going to have the decisions to make on a down-to-down basis. If he is not a leader, again, might not be the most respected guy, but if he is not a leader, then I don't think that football team is going to be very good.
Right.
He doesn't have to be the best player on the offense, but he better have some leadership ability. That team better figure out whether or not this is a guy I can follow, or to your point, I'm confident in their abilities enough to listen to, hey, this is what I'm seeing out here on this play. You know, when they running this right here, let's try this and communicate that to everybody else. I think the most disappointing thing for me for Peyton Thorne last season, it's not missing wide open receivers. Every quarterback does that. I've seen some of the best quarterbacks in the world miss wide open receivers. The frequency in which he did it, disappointing. Yeah. The most disappointing thing for me that I saw from Peyton Thorne last year was his inability to recognize pre-snap coverage stuff. Not seeing blitzes. I get it, you know, this playbook wasn't complex enough for me to feel as if that was a huge problem or he didn't have enough time with the play. Playbook wasn't super complex. They dumbed a lot of this stuff down, and you could see it as the season, it got less and less complex. So the inability for at that point in time, 3-year starter to process more quickly what was happening out there on the field, that to me was disturbing.
Yeah.
That to me was very disturbing. I wanted to see a guy who, whether you knew all the plays or not, you had enough command of what's going on that you could say, hey, they're definitely blitzing off of this look right here. Let me change my protection, make sure I alert to that. I didn't see enough of that from Peyton Thorne for a guy who's played a lot of football.
Right.
And so that to me was the biggest indictment for him of anything else that I saw. The interceptions were bad. Like, there's just no two ways about it. Almost every interception that Peyton Thorne threw was terrible. Like, he had 10 picks last year. I'd say 8 of them were absolutely awful decisions. There were a couple of them that were like, end of the game, he just got to get rid of it, or Hail Mary, end of the half type of thing. So maybe 7. I can go back and look at the tape, but I can count a couple of awful ones off the top of my head that I know were just like, bro, what were you doing on that play?
Right.
And those are the ones where I'm like, that's not 3-year starter stuff, right? Vanderbilt, I didn't see him because of the sun. Arkansas, I'm just going to drop back and throw it to this spot right to an Arkansas defender. Bowl game, not even going to look off anything. We're just going to throw it over here, throwing in the triple coverage a couple of times. I'm just like, bro, these are freshman quarterback interceptions that you're throwing right here. Right. That was those are the things that to me were just like, yo, what are we doing, man? Like, and so, you know, I don't know what we're going to see this spring. I do know that it's got to be a lot better than what we saw last spring. So I think for me, Peyton Thorne, the most to lose of any of these guys out here.
I agree.
All right, we are going to take a little quick break right here. We're going to get into paying some bills. We're going to come back and we're going to talk basketball because Auburn basketball did wonderful things in Athens. I was there to witness it in person.
You were.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. But you are watching the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by, guys, Golden's Cast Iron.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelika-rageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. If you happen to be out there in the world of sports betting and you haven't already, y'all need to check out BetUS. They are currently a sponsor of the War Report. 24-hour issued payouts, 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,500 using the link in the description. 24-hour customer service. All great things that you can get from the folks over there at BetUS. Make sure you check them out. March Madness is quickly approaching. If you want to put a little something, those NCAA futures out there about whether or not Auburn will make it to the Final Four or the national championship, those things are rapidly changing. Whether or not Auburn can get to the SEC title game or the regular season title, those are all futures that you can put bets on right now. So make sure you head over to betus.com and you use the link in the description so that lets them know the War Report sent you over there. If you're a member or if you're not a member, you want to get a membership, you want to get in on some of the film review stuff that I'm doing, make sure that you check us out. I did have a petty film review where I just looked at all of the ridiculously bad defensive plays that Kentucky had against us in the game because I was just so tired of people giving Kentucky credit for playing good defense against Auburn. I'm like, that actually, if we're being honest, Auburn just missed a bunch of shots. And you can't give Kentucky credit for any of this. Like, it wasn't good defense at all. But I will not do a petty film review this week. I'll do something a little bit more substantive for you guys. If you want to gift a membership, you could do that right now, and somebody will get a free month of membership on you. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up. We'll be doing that drawing here in just a few minutes. Make sure you get locked in with that. And if you are out there in the world of podcasting, you can hear audio versions of all our content here at the Auburn Express. At the War Report, we are the Auburn Express, Uptempo Podcast, College Loop, and Just a Sec Pods, all a part of the network. Make sure you lock in with them. Before we transition over to basketball, let's get to this comment section because a lot of y'all been lighting up the comments, and we appreciate that. We'll start it off with Super Chat here from Ben Bloodworth, who says, perspective check. Who would you rather have as QB, Peyton Thorne or Steven Garcia?
Steven Garcia.
I mean, I'm doing this all off of just like pure memory. And I don't know, man. Steven Garcia wasn't good. Peyton Thorne is average. Steven Garcia was average. That's so tough.
He had 1 or 2 hellified games. Steven Garcia did.
I mean, but he was also playing in one of the most pass-friendly offenses there was out there with Spurrier.
Right.
And so, because I mean, what was your boy's name that came in first season at Mississippi State? And he was the quarterback, and he lit up LSU for like 600 yards.
Oh, yeah, and then he got benched later that year?
Yeah, because he couldn't stop throwing interceptions. I can't think of what his name was,
I can't remember what his name is. Yeah.
But that's who Steven Garcia. He's like one of those guys where it's like, yeah, you remember the good stuff that he did in a couple of those times, but like when you get to the brass tacks of it, he wasn't very good.
Yeah, he wasn't good either. I don't know. I'm riding with Garcia because I remember a couple of big wins, but of course, who was coaching him and how made a lot of difference there. Yeah.
Is there an option C? All right. Dylan says, made them dogs sit last night. We'll definitely get into that game for sure. Gonna get into that. Tim the Tool Man says, why is Flan playing like he's in above the rim? That was wild. For those of you who have not happened to see this,
man.
Oh gosh, Alan Flanagan 100% is going to be suspended.
Yeah.
He is 100% about to get suspended. My guy with the high elbow to the jaw. Yikes, Flan.
I'm assuming that something was going on before then, like they had been going back and forth on each other and playing tough defense or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game. I just saw the clip of that.
Elbow across the jaw out of nowhere. He was fed up. I hate that for Flan, man.
Yeah.
But
I don't know how long the suspension's going to be. The Bama guy versus Florida got 1 game for
elbow
what was like
on the back of the head.
Yeah, back of the head situation, falling down. Flan, like full, bro. Like this was Like, he followed through. Like, it was, I mean, I'm talking about, like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. If that was a 1-game suspension, I don't know how Flan doesn't get multiple for what he did. Connecting with somebody's jaw like that, bro, like,
Yeah.
whew, I don't know, cuz. Yeah, but I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what he was thinking, but he's in trouble for sure.
Yeah.
Dana Lynch, and he got kicked out from the game, right? The Bama dude didn't get ejected during the game. So it was like bad enough where they was like, oh, no, bro, you got to get out of here. They reviewed that play and didn't do anything additional to the Bama player. And they was like, later on, they was like, no, you know what? You're right. This was intentional. We got to sit him for a game.
Right.
I don't know, bro. Dana Lynch says, went to the basketball yesterday. It was awesome in person. I agree. We'll definitely get into talking about that a little bit here. Philip Coleman says, Lord, please let practice PT that they brag about show up in games this year for my blood pressure and sanity's sake. Amen. I mean, so here's the thing.
Man, I don't know.
Who brags about practice PT? Because what I heard from PT was talking about pressing and not doing what he needed to do. I heard that he understands everything and he's got a good grasp. I didn't see that. I didn't see grasp of anything, so maybe I need to see that manifest itself. But I haven't heard about Peyton Thorne. Like, every now and then they'll say he had a good practice this week. But yeah, I mean, Peyton Thorne lighting it up in practice, I don't think that's been ever a real thing since he's been to Auburn. I think Peyton Thorne has looked solid. I think Peyton Thorne's continued starting opportunities is more of an indictment of how poorly Robbie Ashford practices.
It's got to be, right?
I just don't think Robbie has had a bunch of really good practices for them to say, all right, maybe he's turning the corner right here. More so than Peyton Thorne did really well in practice. I think PT's he is a whiteboard warrior. Mm-hmm. He knows how to, he can diagram all the stuff up, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I hadn't seen it. I've seen glimpses of it at times, right? Like the Arkansas game minus the interception, he looked good in that game. The Vandy game, he looked good at points in that game. He looked good running the ball against Bama. He had a couple of good throws in that game. He looked good in that final touchdown drive versus Cal, right? Like, there are moments I can point to and say, why can't we get this guy for 4 quarters? But Georgia looked good for portions of that game, right? Like, there are elements that I see in there. I'd rather see those elements for 4 quarters of an entire season. But yeah, practice Peyton Thorne. I don't even know what that is, bro. Like, just
we talking about practice.
Oh man. James Barnett says, in my opinion, Hank may have something to prove because a lot of people think what he did in the bowl game was a fluke. So he needs to prove he can do it again regardless of the situation. Just my opinion. I'll agree with this.
I haven't heard anybody try to discount Hank's performance as a fluke.
A lot of fans have.
I don't follow dummies on social media though, so
yeah, a lot of fans have.
So okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are like that. There are people who are still in the Peyton Thorne camp who say, yeah, but Hank was doing that against the third string. Let's see if he can do that against real competition, right? So what I'll say to this, James, is yes, but that's so far down the list, and he doesn't have to prove that this spring, right? Spring camp is not going to be the time that you prove whether or not they're right or wrong about that. Now you can absolutely go out here and lose momentum this spring. So I'll agree with you. Like, if he just goes out there and stinks it up because I don't think anybody thought about him last spring. So what his performance was like as a true freshman. Well, actually, was he even here in the spring last year? I don't think he had a spring last year. So this will be his first actual spring, to be able to go out there and make an impression on somebody. And that matters too. Let's talk about that, right? Like, people want to talk about, well, Peyton Thorne didn't have a spring. Hank Brown didn't have a spring either. So this will be his opportunity to come in and really build something for the first time as a legit competitor in that room. So we'll see what actually happens with him. But I think he's got everything to gain, though. Like, I think Hank Brown has absolutely everything. He and Walker White are out here playing with house money. You know,
Yeah.
we talking about taking chips off the table. They got donated chips when they walked into the casino and was like, here, courtesy of the house, here's, $2,000. You just go out here and do whatever you want to do. Right. And if they do great, if they mess up, fine. We didn't expect you to come in here and compete. Those other two guys are the ones that the coaches are hoping come in there and compete, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Lawrence Robinson says, can Holden build on the camp he had last summer? If memory serves me correctly, Holden apparently flashed the most. He didn't have the experience. Can he build on summer this spring?
I mean, you would hope so, because again, I think we agree that Hank's college career is now in the balance over the next 5 weeks. Like what he's going to do, if it's going to be at Auburn as a potential starter, or at least in the jostling for the starting job, that's going to be decided over the next 5 weeks. Is he going to have to go somewhere else, uproot his life? He's only been at Auburn. This will be his third year at Auburn. That's going to be decided over the next 5 weeks. So it's in the balance. Can he build on the camp he had last summer? I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope, the thing that I always hope for, and when we did the fireside with Robbie and Holden, and with just pleasantries, I dapped them. I was like, I hope you get a fair look. Like that was it. That's like, man, I hope they give you a fair shot. Mm-hmm. That's all anybody should be able to ask for. I hope you get a fair shot to prove that you can do this job, and that the decision is an equitable decision. They aren't considering what it took to get you here. They aren't considering how much time you have left or how much you played before. They are considering, what can you do? What did I see you do? How well did you do what I asked you to do? Now compare that to the other guy and the other guy. We hope that everybody's QB competition will take place under those circumstances. Do we know that the QB competition will take place under fair and equitable circumstances? That it won't be weighed with, well, I don't know, man, Peyton, I feel like we saw this, but I can probably get him to do this, and Holden hadn't played, and all.
Here's a question. I want to ask you. I'm gonna let you continue your thought, but I want to interject this because I thought about it as you're saying this.
Okay.
Is Peyton's ability as probably the best runner in this room going to factor in a little bit more into this decision potentially?
I would think, okay, after I looked at the totality of our offense in the run game last year, I looked at those stats. Again, I referenced this, but somebody compiled a percentage of missed blocks in the run game for the offensive line. We had like a top 5 offensive line in terms of how well did they run block. Did you get to your man? Did you keep him from blowing up the play? We run blocked extremely well. And I think that bore out at several points over the season, even before they started running Peyton Thorne so much. So with that being the case, I would say if you are going to run block that well, at least having a passing game that you can count on, a quarterback that can get the ball to the right guys, is much more beneficial in totality than having a quarterback that has some scrambling ability. It opens up the run game just as well as a scrambling quarterback opens up the run game. I think if you can say, you know what, we know we got Quez, we know we got Damari, we know we got Cobb, we know we got Battie coming back. Our offensive line has improved because we got Lou there to start from the center position from the beginning. We think we got a better left tackle. Wade's in at left guard now. Hey, I think we're set. Let's get the guy who can sling it, because that should make the run game just academic at that point. Our numbers in the box are going to be friendly. We can adjust and just audible to the run. Everything will work better if your quarterback can deliver on time consistently. I don't think, and to be, again, I don't think Hugh Freeze wants to have a scrambling, because again, if you were going to do that, you could have went Robbie Ashford from the beginning of the season. He didn't want to do that. I don't think that was the plan. I think after he realized what they couldn't do, he had to scale it backwards and realize, you know what, because of how well we run and run block, there's going to be some yards for you as the quarterback, and you are fast enough and mobile enough to get them. Go get them, young man. Thank you. I think a better passer makes more sense for what Hugh Freeze wants to do, at least what he's shown to date. Bo Wallace wasn't like he was willing to do it, but he wasn't great at it. Walker White might be the best, just both best of both worlds in terms of arm strength. I don't know arm talent yet because he hadn't showed that at the college level, but arm strength and mobile ability. Walker White's the best of both. I don't think it'll play a factor into whether or not Peyton Thorne gets the quarterback nod because his inability to be consistent passing hurts you however much his running helps you. It's not a net gain. You got to go for the guy who's going to make the least mistakes in what his position is, quarterback. You still got a quarterback, man. If you're going to hurt us throwing the ball, then no, I don't think Peyton Thorne has a leg up because he can run.
Okay. All right. Eugenia Akira jumps in and says, even when PT had 2 NFL receivers, it was still a 61% completion rate.
Ooh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. And you know what? The percentages have held true because I remember we said this on previous shows. You know what didn't hold true? That TD to INT ratio, buddy. That went way down. That's what started suffering. He's going to make these throws, and the wide receiver's going to bail him out or not. But whether or not it gets picked off, that depends a lot on who he's throwing to. And same completion percentage, but not the same result.
Yeah. James Barnett says, fellas, the same energy everyone had for Jay and Robbie after year 1 should have that same energy for PT, even to the point of suggesting a position change.
I mean,
I think he meant TJ here.
Yeah, I think he meant TJ. We talked about this plenty. Give a person, a player, the right circumstances for what they can do and prepare them to do it, and then take them out there and see what they can do. Being Brian Harson's backup quarterback for a system that didn't fit you at all, and then Cadillac coming in and scrambling up some running offense later, that wasn't a fair test of what type of quarterback can Robbie Ashford be. That's like, hey, we got to do something right now. What can we come up with? But those aren't the circumstances that you want to build offense year after year after year, which is why I think he's getting another shot to do it somewhere else, because somebody's like, you know what? I see what you've got, and I'm going to fit it to do what you can do, and that's why he's going to get that. I agree with you that if you're going to say, hey, well, he didn't do it, I don't care how bad the circumstances were, he didn't do it, so let's get him out of here. I have advocated for Peyton Thorne to be the permanent clipboard holder. Now, I've advocated for that. That's the position I think he should have. You, in the best games you play, you throw picks and pick sixes. That's not good enough. In this, against the worst teams on our schedule, you still manage to turn the ball over. That's not good enough for us to be a good football team. So my permanent advocation is clipboard, permanent spot. I think that's what he should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think that it makes any sense for him to go play a different position. He's a quarterback. I mean, as mobile as he is, I don't see him playing any other position. He's not elite at doing anything but throwing the football.
Right.
I was going to say anything other than throwing the football. But I don't think that there's a room for him to play any other position. So I don't know. I don't know what Peyton Thorne does if he doesn't win QB1 spot. So. All right, let's get over into basketball. Time is getting away from us. Ernest Vaughn jumps in, and I want to use this to pivot over to basketball. It says the last stretch of basketball is set up perfectly for Aiden Holloway to get back in his groove before tournament time. Love it, War Eagle, everyone. Let's use this to talk about basketball, because Aiden Holloway did have himself a bounce-back performance in this game. Auburn literally and figuratively dog walked Georgia in this game. Listen, man, again, I was there watching this in person, and I've watched some of the game back on film, and the officiating was so bad. It was so frustratingly bad that had they not interjected themselves into the game at strategic points to help Georgia bail out on some stuff, this game would have been ugly in the first half.
Yeah.
I don't know that Georgia makes a run without the officials helping them to keep Auburn in foul trouble. Anyway, what were your thoughts? You said you didn't get to watch the game in totality, but just let me get your thoughts before because I have things to say about this game.
If there was ever one game, we've had a couple of that's the CBM game where he either had the impact on the floor directly with the points he was scoring. This is, of course, the highest points total he's had in his career. But Chad Baker-Mazara has had his fingerprint on the Ole Miss game with the halftime speech. But you see the energy and the intensity from him every time he's on the floor. The same with KD, but Chad Baker-Mazara makes more of an impact on the game, I think, probably because of his length and his ability to drive, score. He's decisive when he drives, and he usually tries to get to the rim, and he makes a good attempt when he gets in there. Defense, relentless, the outside shot. This was the Chad Baker-Mazara game more than any of the other Chad Baker-Mazara games to this point in the season, because you can tell me, Ike, every time he scored, he came back down like, get this. I don't know if he was saying, get this man off me. Like, he just like, I don't know what y'all gonna do. It was like, the most wonderful display.
In the post-game press conference,
oh, man.
They asked a question about like kind of what helped him, get off to the hot start. And he was like, I noticed pretty early the guy who they had guarding me couldn't stay in front of me. And he just told the coach, he's like, man, keep giving me the ball. Basically, he was like, yeah. I don't know why y'all got him checking me, but this is disrespectful at this point in time. I'm going to keep cooking y'all as long as y'all keep putting this dude on the plate. He getting cooked.
Man, like that's what I noticed. And to me, like, basketball is wonderful for so many reasons, different reasons of football, of course, but part of it is because you can, at certain points, see, I am better than you. You ain't got shit to do about it. This is going to happen, son. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I had to be you today, but it's going to be you today. And the energy that gives the person who is in control of that matchup is the most beautiful thing about basketball, man. All the greats, they have a moment where they decide, no, I'm going to get it today. It don't matter. It don't matter who in front of me. And Chad Baker-Mazara's energy, when he realized that, every time he got down there, like the drive was just, this side of the rim, but with the other hand, he was just like, this is going to keep happening. It was great. It was my favorite part of that game. I love seeing that. And I didn't think, even when they closed the lead, they closed the gap by quite a bit. I think it was down to 3 at the tightest point. That energy from him, I never saw worry. I mean, KD's like that all the time. So it's never an indication of what are we about to do when KD does it. He's going to be like that all the time. But Chad Baker-Mazara being that intense the entire game, that's what stuck out the most to me. Aiden shots that he hit in the second half to get that lead back out and back open. That was interesting as well. I don't know why, if he would ever do it, I expected him to start hitting those shots at home versus on the road. The fact that he was able to do it on the road, maybe that says something, but also maybe Georgia just stinks on defense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you listen to me, I'd have told you Georgia's not very good defensively. I think one of the more interesting things that Coach Pearl said in the postgame presser was how well Chaney Johnson seems to play. Shout out to Chaney Johnson for coming in a tough spot. First start being on the road in the SEC and coming out there and putting up the kind of numbers that he did. Shout out to him for that. But he was like, for some reason, it seems like Chaney plays better on the road than he does at home. He's like, maybe, I need to start Chaney on the road and start Jalen at home because Jalen has all his good games at home. And I was like, kind of got a point there. Like if one of the guys plays better on the road, you start him on the road. But Chaney definitely stepped up. He played with a level of confidence that I love to see from a guy who hasn't really gotten a lot of opportunities, but definitely has all of the potential to go out there and play well. Because he can do all of the stuff that this is more sophomore level Jalen, right? But all of the stuff that Jalen can do, minus the experience that allows him to do it a little bit more fluidly, Chaney can do all of that stuff.
Right.
He can step out and shoot the three. He can shoot mid-range stuff. He can get to the rim. You saw him almost put somebody in the rim during this game. It was the same kind of dunk that Jay Will missed in the last game. Same situation. Coming off of the baseline, off a backdoor cut, getting up over the top of somebody and trying to dunk it. Same situation. Like, he has all the open court, I'm going to windmill it. He can do that. Like, he's got everything Jay Will has in his bag. He just hasn't made it as fluid yet because Jay Will's a little bit more polished with it because he's been playing at this level a little bit more. So I think his confidence is a little bit better. Right. But if Chaney Johnson starts figuring this thing out, that's going to be a problem for people because I think he's actually a little more athletic than Jay Will is.
Yeah, he is.
That dude could be a problem, man, because he has everything necessary to be a really, really good basketball player.
Yeah.
If he starts to figure out the speed of the game and he really gets his handle down, because I've watched a lot. I watched like 6-7 games of him at UAH before he came in, and I was like, okay, I see this and this and that from him. And at that level, when you have confidence, you just kind of going out there and doing. He was doing stuff, and I was like, man, if that translates, right? It hasn't necessarily translated yet, but shout out to him for having a really good game. Shout out to Chad. I think, listen, I can do a whole session of flowers on Chad and what he was able to bring to this team. Like, he had the first 2 buckets for Auburn, then assisted on the 3rd bucket. Like, I'm talking about out the gate, off the tip, got it, and then went and scored in like 6 seconds, bro. Like, boom. Let's just get straight to it. Like, I was like, oh, this is what kind of day it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like, we're just getting straight to buckets off the tip off. All right, cool. And it didn't stop. Like, he just continued to be kind of that difference maker. But I want to give a big shout out to Aiden Holloway, man, because he got an opportunity to start again in this game. And Coach Pearl talked about the decision to start Aiden Holloway. He was like, from an offensive standpoint, he didn't want to try to replace Jalen with just one guy. So he went to a more offensive lineup to start the game to try to get Auburn off to a good offensive start. So he put his offensive lineup out there. He put Chad Baker-Mazar out there, and he needed someone bigger, so he had Chaney Johnson out there. And then he went to a more offensive-minded guard with Aiden Holloway to start because he felt like he needed to replace Jay Will's offensive contribution with more offense. Right. And it turned out to be a really great decision. It's going to be interesting to see what he decides to do versus Tennessee as far as that starting lineup is concerned. But shout out to Aiden Holloway for just continuing to take shots, right? Like, he hasn't been making a bunch of them, but he kept shooting. He came out and he had a good shooting performance. I'm hoping this starts a momentum swing for him, and that goes back to the comment of that was made earlier about if Aiden can start to get into this bag going into the tournament, this is the best time for his stock to be rising as far as his ability to go out there and play well offensively. He took shots confidently last night, off the dribble, step backs, coming off of pin downs. Like, he was doing all the stuff you expect for a 5-star who shoots as well as Aiden to do. Shout out to him for just pressing through a lot of adversity this season to come out here and do well in this game.
For sure.
And then got to give a shout out to who has been the most consistent guy for this team all year, and that's Janai Broome. I've seen some people kind of giving Janai flack, and he deserves a little bit for his defense against bigs at some points this season. I don't think this is one of those games where he deserves the criticism he got as far as his inability to stop stuff in the paint yesterday, because he got in foul trouble, right? Like, the first foul that he got was a frustration foul. That was his fault. Ball got stripped from him, and he thought he got fouled, and so he reached out to try to steal the ball back, and he got a foul there.
Yeah.
He got one of the most, I don't know that I've seen a tech be given to someone for doing nothing more blatantly than since, like, Tim Duncan smiling on the sidelines. And they just giving him a tech because he's laughing on the sidelines. It's like, bro, that's not, you can't tee somebody up. He ain't in the game. He didn't say nothing to you. Like, what are we doing right here? Janai got into a staring contest with a dude who was talking junk to him 2 inches from his face and walked away and still got teed up. I was like, what exactly did Janai do in this exchange that deserves a tech? He didn't say anything back. He didn't do anything to the dude. He was just like, all right, man, whatever. And then walked past him and got teed up. I was like, what just happened? Yeah. So he got his second foul for doing nothing. Then he ended up getting a 3rd foul on a questionable call, but I could see why he got the 3rd foul call, right? So he played the entire second half trying not to take fouls so he could stay in the game. Because if he gets into foul trouble, we don't have no bigs, bro. Like, Dylan went down with an injury at some point in time. He got a cramp or whatever, so he was out for a big portion of the second half of that game.
Right.
Janai just had to stay out of foul trouble, so he just needs to put his hands up and hope that people get scared of the fact that he's really tall. He couldn't really play aggressive and physical in the post, so I think he got a little bit too much criticism about his defense in the second half when he's just trying to do what he can do to stay in the basketball game. And that's not to say that Janai's been great in the post defense, but I don't think he deserved the criticism he got yesterday. But shouts out to him for being the most consistent player for this team. Another double-double for Janai Broome in this game.
Yeah. He's still a hooper, man. He's still a hooper. Now, Janai, though, I will say it. There are players who are built off of defense, who are tenacious by nature. Broome is tall, and he's actually been playing defense, especially as a help defender or a primary defender, better than he did last year. But refs have an excruciating effect on the game when they make bad calls. Like, you take players out of there. It's like, okay, I'm doing what I think is just excellent defense. My hands are up. I'm contesting, but I'm not touching. And that was a foul call. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, now how I move is changing because I have to account for the fact that if you think I fouled the guy, I'm going to be on the bench.
Right.
It completely ruins how you defend if you're a defender. Some guys will not be able to necessarily reel that defensive intensity back in, but some guys will. They'll be tentative from there on out, and I understand how that happens.
Right. And I mean, I think that you put a lot of guys in that position in this game with a lot of the phantom foul calls. It was so frustrating to watch that, man. But I loved what I saw from this team battling back after, Georgia made their run and they were able to turn this into a non-contest. The fans that showed up, shout out to them. The Auburn faithful that showed up in this game were very loud throughout the contest. They basically took the jungle on the road, and it was pretty evident that they had taken over that arena by the end of that game. I saw Georgia fans leaving in droves around the 4-minute mark of that game, and I was like, "Oh, this is bad. They don't even believe y'all could come back." All right, yeah, game over. And then Dylan Cardwell hit a 3, and that basically just was like euthanizing. So yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Yeah. But yeah, I'll do a more in-depth breakdown of this game probably tonight, tomorrow, something like that, so we can get into some more Live Town content. But yeah, very, very good showing from Auburn on the road. And tough matchup coming up Wednesday versus Tennessee. We'll see what happens there. Let's get into a drawing, man. Let's draw. So somebody could potentially win something. If I could find I did start the drawing, right? Oh, Lord. No, I've got the thing up. It's just not showing. Oh, I'm on the wrong. There we go. I'm like, somebody's finna win this with very few entries because I only have 7 people in it, and I'm not finna wait. So somebody got a really good chance to win today. Hashtag get your weight up before I click this. It's up to 10 now, but I ain't finna do all that weight. Y'all had the whole show to do all that, man.
Lisa, if you've ever had a fair shot.
Phil Coleman. Yeah. I saw her name like twice, though. Yeah.
I was pulling for you, Lisa.
Yeah. So Philip Coleman, if you're still here, let us know. We can get this shirt off to you. A couple more comments here while we wait to see what's up with Philip Coleman. See if there's any more basketball stuff. Phil Petway says Kentucky looked scary good yesterday. I think Alabama's defense is scary bad. And so that's more of an indictment, I think, on the defense that Bama has. Now, Kentucky's good. Like, they can score. I told, if anybody listens to me rattle on about stuff, I was like, man, this game will get into the 200s in the total score. And half of that was Kentucky. But still, I just knew that these are two decently not good, not even decently good, not good defensive teams, right? And so they're going to score a bunch of points because they can score a lot, and neither one of them plays particularly good on defense. So had a feeling that was going to be a high-scoring affair. We'll see. Philip Coleman is here. So, Philip, you know what you need to do. Business at the War Report, get at us so we can get you that mug out there in the mail. But, yeah, Kentucky can score, man. No qualms about that. No ifs, ands, or buts. Eugenia jumped back in earlier, says they slapped a C on his chest, speaking of Peyton Thorne, hoping to force the team to look at him as a leader, but PT ain't that guy, and the players around him knew it. Wow.
Yep.
That's rough.
It happens, man. It happens. It happens a lot of places, and I was just hoping maybe some of it with Hugh Freeze being on a really short timetable last year. It's not like he got to handpick the room. You know what I mean? Walker White is now his guy. Hank Brown was his commit at Liberty, so he already liked his skill set. Holden Gardner's not his guy. Let's be clear. But with Peyton Thorne, who was also a guy that you picked, you got 3 guys that you picked. So you have options. If you don't like any of the other guys, or if you don't like Peyton Thorne, it's not like you have to I have to go with Robbie or Holden, and those aren't really guys who I like their skill set or whatever you didn't like about them to not give them a fair shot, but he didn't give them a fair shot. Well, that shouldn't be a problem this year. You should have other guys to go to that if you don't think this guy is the best guy, whether it's leadership or play, pivot. Let's go to something else because most of them are your guys now.
Yeah. Let's see. Philip tells us KJ Costello was the quarterback that we was talking about.
KJ Costello, yeah.
Yeah, he was all kinds of terrible for Mississippi State after he had that record-breaking game versus LSU. It got bad fast. Yeah. I Am the King asks, can we say he's the best runner, speaking of Peyton Thorne, well, we haven't seen the other ones run? I mean, I guess that's fair to say, but I don't. So the guy who I don't know really much about is Hank Brown. But even if Holden can run, I don't think he runs better than Peyton Thorne does. Peyton Thorne's actually a decent runner. Like, he got like some ability to be shifty in open space, and he's big and he can run through guys, and he's got decent speed. He ain't got like breakaway speed, but it's good. Him
actually breaking a couple tackles off, like shaking a couple guys off through contact. I was like, did not expect that. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim Toolman Taylor says it's those terrible interceptions and overall poor decisions that makes decision making that gives me deep concern. I think that is the biggest concern is just I don't know what he's going to do when it's time to make decisions in the game, right? Like he can see it on the whiteboard, but can he actually do it when the people are moving in front of his face?
Right.
But all right, man, that's it, man. We're going to get out of here. I appreciate you guys. Auburn women's basketball just tipped off inside of Nebula Arena. You guys go check that out on SEC Network Plus if you have that available to you. Shout out once again to Golden's Cast Iron, who sponsors our weekend tailgate. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off of weights, TWR for $65 off of fire pits and Kamado grills. And then make sure you check us out on all the pod places if you want to listen to audio versions of this. Didn't get a chance to win anything, hit us up at thewarreport.com, and you can purchase something of your own there, and we definitely appreciate everybody who continues to support us in all of those ways. But we are out of here. Like the video before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we certainly appreciate all of the shares that you all are doing out there on social media. But till tomorrow with our morning drop we have coming for you guys. That is it. We'll be back at y'all soon. Till then, War Eagle.
War Eagle.